Good morning. My name is Susanne Prokscha. I use she, her pronouns, and I am honored to be your worship associate this morning as we welcome to the pulpit Reverend Dr. Sheri Prud'homme. Yay. She is the Justice Education Advisor to the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and is also on the core faculty of Starr King School for the Ministry in Oakland. She teaches theology and the practical arts of ministry. Rev. Sheri was ordained as a minister in 2001 and has served as a minister of religious education in several Unitarian Universalist churches in our region. She has published numerous articles and a book, Gather the Spirit, History of the First Unitarian Church of Oakland, 1869 to 2000. That book received the Unitarian Universalist History and Heritage Congregational History Prize. Her most recent publication is a chapter on Unitarian Universalist theology in the new UU Pocket Guide, which was just released in September. She lives in South Berkeley, is the proud parent of 2 young adults, enjoys hiking, backpacking, and gardening, and she will be speaking about planting seeds of justice today. Welcome, Rev. Sheri. From the writing of Bob Patrick of the UU Congregation of Gwinnett, seeds are often very little tiny things, but seed sowing is no little thing. Seed sowing changes the landscape of the past, the setting of the present, and the way the future will appear. What seeds are you sowing today? Others very much depend on it. Please join us in worship.
Branches that reach to the sky. Sometimes we cannot reach our arms at high. Can feel the sun rise. Feel only the dark around our eyes. There's a moment when formless mystery becomes a part of But for now, we decompose and make a soil so rich we can grow. After all this, oh brief pain and darkness, the weight I feel had never been sore, and I better be a seed, and I better be a seed. Trees grow after seeds have died. Change is a part of everything. Change is a part of everything. God from the dark, but also I can run from love, from love, and I'd rather be a seed, and I'd rather be a seed. We had better be seeds. We had better be seeds. We had better be seeds.
This reading is a poem called Desert Flowers by Manish Mishra Marzetti. Improbably, the wind-blown seed found its way here to a long, beautiful stretch of land, but one that was hot and dry and arid. A spark of life resting in an unprepared desert. Quenching, life-giving sustenance, the rain comes and goes, even if infrequently, sometimes only a few drops at a time. And the seed begins to take root, possibility brought alive. But what life is this amidst the harshness, pocket mice, rattlesnakes and camel spiders, danger and inhospitability? Lurking everywhere, one chance encounter gone wrong could bring death to the seedling. And yet somehow the intrinsic invitation to thrive, to flourish and grow finds a way, even when it is a struggle. Poking gently up from the cracked, parched desert earth, a beautiful pink, 5-petaled fuchsia blooms spectacularly, improbably. We are those wind-blown seeds, the universe's longing for life, for thriving, for beauty, even when it is against the odds.
Good morning. It's such a privilege to be with you today and in your beautiful space. Congratulations on all that must have entailed to bring you to this moment. I'm really grateful to be sharing worship with you amidst all that is broken and hurting in our country and our fresh, for many of us, outrage at what seems to be war. I get today to share a part of Unitarian Universalism with you that really inspires me. I currently wear 2 hats, as Susanne mentioned, in our faith tradition. I'm on the core faculty at Starr King School, and I'm also the Justice Education Advisor for UUSC, or the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. And it's that second hat that brings me to you this morning. So in our time together, I'm going to tell you 3 stories. The first is my journey of conversion from someone who had a vague sense of what the UUSC did to someone who believes it's one of the most inspiring things that we are doing collectively. Second, a story of something remarkable that bloomed from a seed of justice that really demonstrates UUSC's unique way of working in partnership. And third, I'm going to tell you a story that I hope might include you. So first, me. I've been a UU for a long time now. I discovered our faith in college in the early 1990s, and I was ordained to our ministry in 2001. I knew about UUSC through their annual fundraiser, Guest at Your Table, through serving in religious education in several congregations. Have any of you heard of Guest at Your Table? Yeah, okay, all right. But my understanding was vague, and my support was, at best, theoretical. So in the spring of 2024, that changed. I was in Germany as a guest researcher on sabbatical from Star King, and it was that good fortune that allowed me to travel with the board of UUSC to visit some of their partner organizations in Poland who were working with refugees fleeing Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So before we even traveled, UUSC staff held Zoom meetings with us to orient us, background and context, considerations of privilege and power, covenant building, caucusing, thinking about how the stories we might hear could impact us in all of our identities. These sessions were real and tender and thoughtful. I was already impressed. My train pulled into the station in Warsaw, and I walked to our hotel. It was old and beautiful. I found my room and then the conference room where we would meet to share our experiences and our meals. Have you ever had that experience of just walking into a group of people in a room and kind of being struck by just the integrity and the thoughtfulness, the depth of the folks who were there? Our first partner visit in Warsaw was to a community center created by Foundations Towards Dialogue. Founded by two women to support the rights of Roma people in Poland, to changing the society in Poland through education, the community center was alive with women and children of all ages, voices bubbling, food cooking in the kitchen, children playing in the yard. We didn't share a common language, but there were gestures of welcome and warm smiles. Roma people are a transnational nation comprised of over 100 different dialects. Originally from India, they've experienced centuries of persecution in Europe, and because they're considered by governments to be nomadic, they are often excluded from the kinds of services that would be granted to refugees. So after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Foundations Towards Dialogue was able to shift really quickly and create this community center for Roma, Poland, Ukraine folks, offering psychological support, legal aid, mentoring, and education. The feeling of love and community in that place was palpable. They told us something we would hear again and again. From the beginning, you listened to us. You helped us get what we needed, and you didn't make us fill out 100 pages of forms that would take us away from our work. Another group that was routinely denied services in shelters in Poland after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia were refugees of African descent. Our visit to the Alliance for Black Justice Poland was deeply moving. We walked into this large hall. They had greeted us with water and snacks. The coalition formed to respond to needs such as providing transport from the border areas to cities throughout Poland, legal advice, and help with accessing safe accommodation, healthcare, and other basic services. As mass evacuations from the border ended, Black Justice Poland's work shifted to longer-term support of Black, African, and Afro-descent people who were deciding to stay in Poland. UUSC board members of African descent and other people of the global majority spoke with our hosts as the white people in the group silently held space and witnessed the exchange. Across the continents, we heard similar stories of discrimination, systemic oppression, and police violence. One of the leaders of Black Justice Poland spoke directly to UUSC board about their funding approach as a partnership. "It is so unusual," he said. "It's a different practice than we've experienced with any other funders, and it's part of why we're so excited to meet you today." We met with other partners as well, like Martinka, which provides holistic services to women fleeing Ukraine alone. The closing of the border meant that men couldn't flee, so many women took the opportunity to flee domestic abuse. At the time of our visit, they had an annual budget of $250,000 supporting 8 team members who were fielding like 10 calls a day, sometimes working with women anonymously so that they could set up lives in Poland in ways that couldn't be traced. Martinka also educates women around topics that were taboo in Ukrainian society, like gender fluidity, LGBT issues, abortion, and sex education. The founder told us that many funders had already left the region because it wasn't flashy anymore. She said, "You're different. You make a transparent commitment up front, and you stick with that commitment." Plus, she said, "You're willing to fund a small group like us who talks about things that no one else is willing to talk about." By the end of the trip, I was blown away by the consistency of this refrain. You're different from other funders. You listen to us. You respect us. You help us with what we want help with. I'm not sure I had ever felt quite so proud to be a Unitarian Universalist. UUSC has developed this way of relating nimbly, identifying people in grassroots organizations at the intersection of their funding priorities, which are climate justice, migration solidarity, humanitarian crisis response, and democracy and protecting civil liberties, including gender justice. UUSC is often able to get funding to folks with marginalized identities whom larger funders are not willing to support. And many times, UUSC is a group's first funder. Depending on what partners ask for, UUSC also provides help with advocacy research, justice education, technical assistance, strategic communications, and pulling people together in gatherings or convenings. UUSC currently works with over 70 partners in 20 countries, including the US, and has 47 full-time staff people. And sometimes from a small seed, something extraordinary grows. This brings me to my second story, which really illustrates how UUSC works relationally. This starts way back with UUSC's work on human rights to water. Were any of you around for the California campaign? Yeah, some of you did that. In California, UUSC was part of a partnership that led to the first Human Rights to Waters Acts in the country here in California. UU Legislative Ministry was part of that. So in that process, UUSC made a lot of connections with folks in the environmental justice movement. And from that emerged something that hardly anyone was talking about at the time, an awareness of climate-forced displacement. UUSC published an early report in the field about why funders should be funding people who have lost their homes because of climate. So UUSC got a bit of a name for itself in that community. In 2018, UUSC funded, along with some support from the Climate Justice Resiliency Fund, the first ever Indigenous Climate Justice Activists convening. It was held in Anchorage, Alaska, and the UUSC brought partners there from all over the Pacific, Alaska, the state of Washington, the tribes in southern Louisiana who had been so impacted by the rising waters there, and their partners in Bangladesh. So the grassroots partners set the agenda, they did the facilitating, they shared stories of what they were facing, their triumphs, their heartbreaks, and they created a framework for how governments should support communities facing climate force displacement with dignity and self-determination. Fiji actually adopted this framework and is using it, even if imperfectly, to guide their work as they move people from coastal communities further inland as the oceans rise. So the framework's existence is shaping the global conversation, and it's a testament to what these kinds of convenings that UUSC makes possible can accomplish. So as a result of that convening in Alaska, UUSC got connected with folks in the Pacific, Asian Pacific islands who were working in these same issues, and that's how they met the Pacific Island students fighting climate change. So this was, have you heard this story already? Okay, great. So this was a group of law students, like literally a law student class who had a class project. They had this idea that they would take climate justice to the highest court in the world, the International Court of Justice at the United Nations. And the way that UUSC staff tells this story, they were like, okay, that's nice, but we'll go all in with you. And they did. So there's never been any kind of statement addressing accountability for all that is lost as corporations and nations gain more and more wealth from the destruction of the climate. So this is actually quite an amazing story. When they got to the United Nations and made their demands, it was a brilliant reminder of the adage, never underestimate a small group of people to make a difference. In an unprecedented move, the UN General Assembly, by consensus, unanimously asked the International Court of Justice to take up climate change and accountability. At the International Court of Justice, hearings are usually pretty dry and arcane, but not this time. They saved 4 speaking spots for these youth activists from the Pacific to speak directly to the panels of judges. Through this whole campaign, the youth were exceptional storytellers, and it was a powerful example of centering the experiences of the people most effective. And if you ever want some inspiration, I would check out their testimonies. They're up on the UUSC website if you want to hear them yourself. So in July, they had what UUSC's global advocacy strategist, Mayuri Anapundi, calls a massive win. When the court rendered their opinion, she said it blew past everyone's expectations. The court not only said there was a right to a clean and healthy environment for all people, but that there was an obligation under multiple bodies of law, not just the Paris Agreement, but under human rights law, to protect the climate system. When you fail to protect the climate system, they said it triggers obligations to pay reparations. This is a transformative concept for climate law. The opinion also addressed climate force displacement, saying countries should not send people back to a country where there is a substantial risk to their life. They even called out fossil fuel production, consumption, subsidies, and exploration licenses as actions that fail to protect the climate system. It is an advisory opinion, so it's therefore unbinding, but it is judges explaining what they think the binding obligations are under the legal obligations of nation states are, and it has the potential to seed a new wave of litigation around the world in individual countries to hold them to be accountable and more ambitious in their climate action. So UUSC's funding got the Pacific Island students fighting climate change started and helped them connect with larger allies. The students had all the strategy that they needed, but they needed UUSC to partner in solidarity with them, from research assistance to advocacy support from UUSC members, like all of you, calling and writing on behalf to the United Nations, to making a key connection with a nation-state champion, Vanuatu, from the beginning, to finding them housing in New York when they were there at the United Nations doing their organizing. So this brings me to my third story, the one that I hope might include you. Wherever you are on your UU journey, whether you're new or have been around a long time, there's a place for you to be part of the success story that is UUSC. We're a small denomination in terms of numbers, but not in terms of impact. UUSC is funded by its members, not by the UUA, not by the federal government. It allows us, USC, to act independently and with courage. That's why we can support organizations like Pink Haven, that's right now working to get transgendered folks in states where it is not safe to be anymore into states where it is more safe to be. There's other amazing stories about UUSC's work on their website, and I can talk to you more after the service as well. But my invitation for you is to consider joining your story with UUSC by becoming a member. With a gift of $40, you can be a member. With a gift of $150, the congregation in Shelter Rock, the UU congregation who has all of this money because of oil, I know, it's complicated, but they do good things with their money, and they will match that to make it a gift of $300. With a gift of $5,000, you can become part of their stewardship circle and meet periodically with the partners. Every contribution helps. You all know your resources. There's also the Resistance Network, which you can become part of, which just has periodic calls to action that all of the UUs who are part of UUSC do together at one time to support a partner organization. So I can talk to you about any more of that after the service in the social hall. For the past 3 years, I've given UUSC $1,000 each year, not because I have to, but because I really believe that this organization combines our resources with integrity and in alignment with our values. So I do it as both resistance to the human rights violations that break my heart every day, here in our country and around the world, and in honor of the dream that someday we will live in a world where everyone's human rights are respected, in a global commonwealth of humanity in balance with the earth. May it be so. Love that song. Thank you. We are leaving the chalice lit today because there will be a congregational meeting right back here at noon. So don't go far. You're helping it be relit? Yeah. Thank you. You are welcome to reach out and touch a hand or a shoulder, an elbow of someone near you if you like. As we go forth from this place, may we remember, we are those wind-blown seeds, the universe's longing for life, for thriving, for beauty, even when it is against the odds. May we live into our own possibilities of rooting and coming alive and into a new solidarity with those everywhere who plant seeds of justice. Go in peace.